There's a specific type of physics that happens when you're on a bike. You're not in the environment. You are of the environment. The temperature drops 5 degrees when you pass under a canopy of banyan trees. You smell the salt from the ocean, then the sweet fermented scent of the cane fields, then the diesel exhaust of a bus. It's visceral, it's honest, and it's a lot like life after 50. For a long time, I thought moving forward required a roar. I thought change had to be loud, dramatic, explosive, a burn it all down moment. But as I navigate these winding Mauritian roads, I'm realizing that the most profound shifts don't happen at full throttle. They happen in the quiet moments, in the shifting gears, in the decision to just show up for a ride. Marianne Radmacher once said, "Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I'll try again tomorrow." I'm Island Punk. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the art of the coax, how we reclaim our agency, not by force, but by invention. The Island Punk channel is about courage and resilience. Most people come to an island to escape. I came here to wake up. I'm Island Punk. This isn't a travel vlog about luxury resorts or pristine beaches, although you're going to see them along the way. This is a channel about the internal revolution. It's about the philosophy of the gritty, honest pursuit of self-mastery and the courage to be real when the world demands a script, and the resilience it takes to rebuild your life on your own terms. We don't just ride to get somewhere. We ride to leave behind the things that no longer serve us. So grab your backpack, strap on your helmet, and open your heart and mind. It's going to be an interesting ride today. I lived a different life for 20 years. Back in the States, I wasn't sure if my mental health was still something I owned. I felt like my original self had been paved over by the chemical architecture of SSRIs and the dulling fog of alcohol. When I moved here, when I decided to move here to become an expat and leave my teaching career and the classroom behind, I knew I had to find out who was left under those chemical layers. I started a slow taper off of my medication, and let me tell you, it felt like visiting a lost and found bin every single day. I imagine day after day walking up to the lost and found counter in my mind, I'd ask the attendant, "Has my organic mental health been turned in yet? You know, the one I lost back in the late 90s. Most days, the bin was empty. But sometimes it was worse than empty. Sometimes it was filled with things that I definitely did not want. Flashes of panic, a crushing sadness, or a heavy anhedonia that felt like a thick white fog blurring everything. But I kept showing up at that counter in my mind in the hopes that I would find some organic mental well-being. That's the agency part. You don't control what's in the bin, but you do control the fact that you show up to check it. You don't have to yell or to be worried, but just return, keep returning. I eventually realized that my mental well-being wasn't a static object I could just grab and walk away with. It wasn't a set of keys I had lost, and it was more like a shy animal. Think about it. If a dog has been hiding under a bed for 20 years because the house was too loud, too chaotic, and too heavily, quote, managed, you can't just yell at it to come out. You can't demand it to be normal on command. The withdrawal process, the detox from my old life wasn't just physical. It was a long, quiet period of coaxing. I had to sit quietly on the floor of my own life. I had to wait. I had to build an environment that the animal could finally trust. And here on the island, I built that environment through simple things. Slow rides on the scooter, the scratch of a pen in a journal, the silence of meditation in a Hindu temple, music instead of videos, healthy food and fresh air, and the responsibility of feeding a stray kitty I named Twinkle. I stopped looking at the, quote, nightmare stories on the internet. You know, the ones, the forums where people tell you your brain is permanently broken. I started seeing those stories as just, well, other people's weather. In Mauritius, the weather is unpredictable. 1 minute, it's brilliant sunshine. The next, it's a sideways deluge of rain. You don't take it personal. You just wait for the clouds to pass. And I started treating my, quote, huge feelings, the days where I was anchored to the sofa or the bed, the same way. I'd say it's raining in my head today. Better put on the metaphorical raincoat and wait it out. Finally, one day at the Lost and Found, there it was. My mental health was sitting on the counter. It didn't look the way it had 20 years ago. It was older. It was a bit more cautious. It had some visible scars from the mileage, but it was mine. Reclaiming yourself is a slow owning, a deeply personal art. It's not a grand rescue mission with helicopters and sirens. It's the persistence of checking that empty bin one more time, even when you're tired of looking at the bottom of it. I'm no longer beholden to a prescription or a social expectation of how a, quote, retired teacher, quote, should be or should do. I'm simply a person looking for a reclaimed life. Every night I check in, I see how the mental wellness is feeling, thinking. I ask what it carried today and what it needs for tomorrow. That is self-mastery, not total control, but presence. So I want to ask you, is there a part of yourself, your creativity, your joy, or your calm that has been, quote, under the bed for a while? What would it look like if you stopped roaring at yourself to just get better? What if this week you just sat quietly on the floor and tried to coax it out? No judgment, no deadline, just an invitation to return. If you're navigating your own lost and found, you don't have to do it without a map. I wrote a book called Mental Wealth Journey. It's on Amazon. It's less of a how-to and more of a companion for the lived texture of your own experience. If you want to keep the dialogue going, subscribe here. Join the Substack for the Island Punk daily deep dives. That's where we build the emotional muscle that today's journey takes. And if you want to keep this retired teacher caffeinated while I feed the local strays and record these rants, buy me a coffee at the link below. Every bit of support helps keep this agency-driven expat experiment alive. Take care of yourself. Watch the weather. Don't become it. Until next time, lead, follow, or get out of the way.